Howdy, folks. Happy Thursday. It's not hump day. We were supposed to do a show Wednesday, but X not feeling too good right now. He probably will be back on Friday, we hope. Today, of course, is the, 82nd anniversary of Pearl Harbor. Hey, I'm a history guy. What can I tell you?
Yeah, you always focus on the positive.
Well, I'm sorry, but it happened. So, it's like, the Kennedy assassination, 9/11, and somebody give me a thumbs up. Thank you. I still don't know how the hell that's happening.
I don't know how that works either.
Somebody told me it's like if you do a thumbs up, it's going to give you a thumbs up. Like it's sort of like but I didn't do anything, so it just popped in there. So it's probably Michael Cohen. He's controlling everything.
Look, I just did thumbs up. It did nothing.
Yeah, I'll give. No, never mind. All right, we'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, so I posted a little while ago. I got an LP in the mail. A while ago I did away with records, maybe like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And everybody started getting into it about 5 years ago, and someone gifted me a Victrola. So I bought some albums that I figured are hard to get, or the ones that a little flashy. Sometimes they have different colors, or different something that I don't already have. Because CDs are really good, and to be honest, I still like them, and I turn them into MP3s, and it works, right? But what's interesting is, there's definitely albums out there that I've never heard, and so like this Chicago Live at Carnegie Hall, I've never heard.
I was blown away that you'd never heard that before.
But yeah, but I guarantee you there are songs on this album you've never heard.
Oh no, I have the original. Okay, my brother had the original Chicago Transit Authority.
Sure, I got that one too, just because someone gave it to me.
Right.
Like, this is a live one, and I wanted it because of Terry Kath. Like, by the time, look, I knew in 1971 when this album came out, I was 8, right? So a lot of the stuff that I like from rock came a little later. What was interesting is when people started liking Chicago in my neighborhood, like around my age, it was around junior high school, and that was already the Cetera years.
Yeah, that was when they went pop probably by 75, and
right.
Then they really went pop when Cetera, it was David Foster was the producer,
right? I liked a lot of that stuff. I saw them in concert that way, and saw them at Radio City. They were great, and it was no Terry Kath, of course, because what happened to him.
Yeah,
and so I wanted to get a live album that had Terry Kath on it, because it's a completely different vibe.
Yes.
And it's something that I've really never heard other than 25 or 64. But I don't know if I've heard. I can tell you I've never heard that version. I think the one that floats around is the Live from Japan. So that seems to be the one everybody has listened to.
See, I'm like, very few times are live performances as good as the studio. And 25 or 64 is, the guitar solo on that is unbelievable. I would recommend, and I think it's on YouTube. If it's not, you can find it out there. There was a documentary made. It was about Terry Kath's daughter searching for the guitar, like the guitar.
Yeah, I watched it. It was good.
It was really good. And I won't spoil the ending, but obviously what happened. But he was, he isn't as widely acclaimed, but he's up there with the guitar.
Hockey fan, wearing a hockey jersey. They put out a special album of his in 2017, like just stuff with him in Chicago. He's wearing a Rangers jersey. Like, he's a big hockey fan, and so I thought I would get back in touch with that, and I thought it would be fun. So, because really, I only saw the Cetera, Chicago at that point. So that's all. People get crazy about this stuff, but I also wanted to say, rest in peace to Denny Lane. I got to see him 2 years ago when Todd Rundgren was doing this tour for Rubber Soul, I think it was. And so they played that. They played songs off of that. They played Band on the Run. He played, I put it up on my Twitter feed. He played Badfinger, which is great. Yeah. I remember Badfinger when I was a kid. I would still hear that on the radio.
Well, and it was funny because Paul McCartney put out a message on social media after Denny Lane passed away, because he was an original member of Wings. And the Beatles knew the Moody Blues because they toured with them in the 60s. And he liked them so much because, I don't think McCartney played any Beatles songs when Wings toured in the 70s. Eventually,
I don't think so.
Yeah, eventually he started to. I think it was the legal stuff, but then he was also trying to sort of carve his own niche. But the one song that they
this is the fake McCartney you're talking about, not
the Walrus.
McCartney died.
The Walrus.
Everybody watching out there.
Yeah. Okay, horse balls. I expect Michael Cohen to say that, but not. But no, Denny Lane did a Moody Blues song called "Go Now," which is fantastic. It's just a fantastic. Again, go listen to it on YouTube. It's phenomenal. But yeah, I was sad to see. I think he was 78 or 79.
And he was good. Like a couple of years ago, he was really good. I mean, his voice was still decent. His guitar playing was decent. Yeah. It was a nice little tour. They had like the last singer from Chicago on there. And he had a good voice. He was fine. The guy who does it now. But it was an interesting mix. And I had never seen Denny Lane in anything. Mm-hmm. Like by the time I was into the Moody Blues, and I really wasn't into them, it was just certain songs, I really got back into them because there's no songs on my iPod from the Moody Blues. But when Patrick Moore
Nights in White Satin is not on your
don't care. But when Patrick Moraz joined, obviously he had a big influence on that Long Distance Voyager album. So that was a big deal. So yeah, that's it for me in the Moody Blues. It's not that great.
Not that interesting. Okay.
No. It's like a boring song. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you got 20 minutes to waste.
Breathe Deep, The Gathering Gloom.
Yeah, I turned.
Hello, Hockey World. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, December 7th, 1941.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. I feel like I've been on this show since 1941.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is a date that will live in infamy. And this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, let's. Like I said, I put it out in the chat that we'll take some questions. We're not going to go long today. The focus right now, in terms of like the rumor world right now, is defensemen. It started with Zadorov. It seems to be a fixation of a number of teams, not just the Leafs, but the Devils, obviously, with their injury situation. Well, we'll just start with there because, we've heard, Tanev, obviously. We've heard about Tyson Barrie being a healthy scratch in Nashville and wanting out. But, I mean, you look at the defensemen out there. I mean, Tanev is a rental. But really, the defensemen whose names are out there, it's not like it's like, okay, Barrie is an aging offensive defenseman, never has played defense well, and he's slowing down, so that's a factor. You've got a young guy like Philip Broberg that just got sent down to Bakersfield today. The defensemen that are out there right now, and Elliot Friedman mentioned Nick Seeler and Sean Walker in Philadelphia. We're not talking like top pairing.
No, but the thing is, and I wish I could chat with Elliot about that because it's not like they're getting traded tomorrow.
No.
Those guys aren't getting traded until John Tortorella decides they're not contending anymore.
And actually, it was Jeff Merrick that brought it up, and then Elliot talked about it, and they both agreed exactly what you said, that as long as they're being competitive, because John Tortorella is the 800-pound gorilla, and basically, if we're competitive, you're not trading anybody. Then I wonder who the general manager is,
it's going to have to be like a group sort of decision. I'm sure there's going to be a time where Danny Briere will put down his foot, but at this point, they haven't done it. So,
right. So, I mean, okay, if you're let's look at the individual teams. If you're the New Jersey Devils and Dougie Hamilton is out for the foreseeable future because it's a torn pec muscle.
Yeah.
You've been able to replace him offensively on the power play with Luke Hughes because Luke Hughes has been the point guy since the beginning of the year. Where you're going to miss Hamilton is 5-on-5 because they've been using him with Siegenthaler as their top pairing. And they were not good defensively before losing Hamilton. So I don't know whether you want to go out and replace him with another offensive guy like Barry. And I know Nemec is up, but Nemec is what, 19 years old?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if he'll be able to stay yet. He might, but again, Mike's right. At some point, they're going to need someone who can play rock solid defense. Again, I think they are missing Damon Severson. I know they were quick to get rid of him, but let him go, not re-sign him. But I think they could still use him. They are talented, but if you saw that game the other day against Vancouver, I mean, they were up. I think it was something like 4-1 and 5-2, and Vancouver kept coming back on them. And some of it's goaltending, but some of it's defense too. And so they do have an issue there, and they have defensive forwards. It's not like they have forwards that play no defense. It's on their defense, and it's a little of the goaltending. And there are some goalies out there. I did want to chat about that too.
Oh, we will. Let's stick with the defense first, then we'll go to the goaltending. So, okay, and I'm just scanning through, but so Philadelphia right now, Walker's a name that's been popping up the last week or two. Walker and Sealer, and we've talked about Sealer before. Yeah. But the name that's popped up in numerous reports is Rasmus Ristolainen. And here's the thing. I have a lot of experience watching Ristolainen when he was in Buffalo. I think he got a bad reputation because Buffalo was a crap team. He was out there for 30 minutes a night playing power play, penalty kill. They overworked him. I don't think they developed him pretty well. I still think he's a pretty good defenseman, but the question with him, Russ, is the health. And I know that he's back, but he was connected to Toronto. I'm sure he's going to be connected to another few teams. He's got 3 years left at over $5 million. If I'm any team, I want to see him play for 2 or 3 months before the deadline to see if he's healthy. Honestly, if he's not, or if there's any question, I don't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things here. So one thing is he's no longer a real offensive defenseman. He takes 2 shots a game. You're talking about a 20-point guy. Now, he's physical, sure. He could skate. He'll give you 15 to 17 minutes. He's always going to have a bad turnover. That's just the way it is. But right now he's playing third pairing, Mike, and that's a problem. Right. So I don't know how long the Flyers feel like they need to ease him in. But for as long as he's playing on the third pair and making this kind of money, nobody's going to take him.
He's immovable if he's a third pairing defenseman. Right. I mean, if you're doing it to protect him, then that sends a signal to the entire league. Right. That, one good hit, and because it was concussion issues, right?
Yeah, that's what we believe. We don't know for sure.
Right. So, yeah, I mean,
he's down 4 minutes a game from last year, just right now so far.
So, I mean, I don't think that's viable.
No. I know Drew wants to get rid of him. Every Flyers fan has him traded, and they want to keep Walker, but every Flyers fan is not keeping the thing in mind that what we just said. It's some risk and a lot of term, and nobody really wants that.
Now, I say this partially in jest, but I thought it was hilarious that on Tuesday, when Detroit visited Buffalo, they had Sider playing with Woolman. That's their top pairing. They had Sherratt playing with Jeff Petrie. And their bottom pairing was Oli Mata and Shane Gostisbehere. Which defenseman, who was healthy, by the way, which defenseman who they just signed to a free agent contract for over $3 million was the 7th healthy scratch defenseman? Oh my God, it was Justin Hall.
I'm shocked.
I'm stunned. So, I don't know if he's on the block or if Petrie's on the block or anybody's on the block in Detroit. They're trying to make the playoffs, but I just thought it funny that the guy that they pursued and signed for significant money wasn't even in the lineup. Now, an interesting one here is David Savard with Montreal. He's been out, but he's skating, and I think this is his last year. He's a right shot, I believe. And he's got Stanley Cup Stanley Cup experience with Tampa and with Columbus, playoff experience. So if he's another guy like Ristolainen, if he stays healthy for a month or two, I think you'll have teams kicking tires on him. So
yeah, I mean, nobody wants to trade for these guys that we're talking about early. Tanev may be the only one,
right,
and he's not going to get dealt this soon.
right, and see that's the thing. And Calgary, right now at 23 points, they're 4 points out of a playoff spot. So
Right.
You think that they're anxious to trade Tanev for a draft pick? No. If they fall out of it like they did early in the year, and they traded Zadorov because Zadorov wanted out. So I don't know. I mean, that's now, there are other ones out.
Some breaking news before we continue down this road. It's from Steve Simmons. He's saying that Rogers is dropping the NHL rights. I guess it's running out.
Yeah, they're not renewing. They're not dropping.
They're not renewing. And, they're talking about it in terms of getting Ohtani, which I don't believe the Blue Jays will. But I do believe this is an issue for the NHL to get a big Canadian sponsor because,
well, you have to remember this. What Rogers paid for the NHL contract was way above what had ever been paid before.
Correct.
And we've seen in terms of people that lost their jobs at Rogers, guys like John Shannon, who was part of their crew, and CJ was Chris Johnston was part of Sportsnet. Doug McLean and Kiprios
although to be fair, I'm happy that Doug McLean's retired.
Well, yeah. Now he's selling real estate in PEI, I think.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the guy who hosted the noon show, who's now in Vegas. Somebody in the chat would know.
Darren Millard.
Darren Millard. Yes. Sorry about that.
You don't need to chat. I know.
No. Okay. Thank you.
I'm kidding.
Thank you, Russ. He knows all. If he knew all, why would he be wearing that fucking hat? Oh, excuse me.
Oh, wow. Wow, like the Bills are the bastard.
Did I say anything about the Bills?
All right.
Fine. At least they're 2 games ahead of them. So I mean, they really got destroyed on that contract. So them walking away from it, or maybe going to maybe regional coverage. I mean, what will end up happening is TSN will end up buying it back.
Most likely, but they're not going to get the same kind of rate.
No,
and so that's why I wonder where they're going to make it.
And the NHL is not going to get the same kind of money because the money that was paid
that's
out.
What I mean by rate, money. So where are they going to make up the difference? That's what it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's gonna definitely change the landscape in Canada. But I mean, I think I'm pretty sure it's another year. I think it's up to 2020, the end of the 2025 season or 2024.
Coming quick, man.
Yeah, that's next year. So I mean,
Fanatics can't buy everything.
Now, back to defense. The other guy that somebody in the chat mentioned was Matt Dumba, and again,
they're doing great. So they're not trading.
Right, and that was the point I was going to make. They're in the playoffs right now, so they're not trading Matt Dumba unless even if they don't have a chance to re-sign him. If they have a chance to make the playoffs, even if it's in that crap hole of a 3,500 seat arena for Arizona State, they're gonna push at the envelope and try to make the playoffs. So
no question. I mean, that will do them more good with their land sale and all that than worrying about getting a second round pick for Dumba.
Which everybody is skeptical that's going to, Hannafin, as Randy said in the chat, Mario Ferraro from San Jose is another.
Ferraro doesn't have to be traded. So that one, they're going to try and milk. Hannafin's going to be last minute, same thing, because Calgary's going to fool themselves, and so is Randy, that they're actually in it. And, eventually they're going to get dealt. But what are the odds that Hannafin gets dealt to anywhere other than Boston?
I think it's only if it's a pure rental. It's only if it's a team that has multiple first round picks that's willing to trade an extra pick.
Right. Otherwise, he's going to Boston.
But the thing is, I don't know whether Boston. I mean, Boston could sign him as a free agent after in the summer. I mean,
they probably also feel like if they had one more really good defenseman, they could challenge because there's teams like, I don't know, the Leafs that aren't doing very well.
Yeah, but okay, I don't think that Hannafin puts them over the top. I think Lindholm puts them over the top. I think
yeah, but Lindholm it will cost a lot more.
Yes, but they
I know that's what they need, but they can get by, I think, without it.
But see, the thing is, I think I think Hanifin is a long-term type of guy. He wants to play in Boston. They want him, but I mean, if it's a package deal involving both of them, then you're talking a massive deal. I don't know.
That's not out of the realm either.
It's not out of the realm. I mean, it's like, I mean, if it's okay, if Calgary can't sign either one of them, and Lindholm is making less than $5.
At this point, Calgary can't sign either one of them. They haven't, so it's not happening.
Right.
I feel pretty confident in saying I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay, Lindholm is making $4.85.
Right.
Hanifin's making $4.95. So if they retained 50% on both of them, then it's still a $5 million cap hit for both of them.
Yeah, so Boston's going to send them
Jake DeBrusk
players and DeBrusk to balance it. Yeah,
right. So it's possible. I mean, now you're talking about probably a lot of future assets, and we know that Boston doesn't have a lot of future assets. I mean, first round picks they traded in deals, but they traded to Washington for Orlov. That was last year's number one that ended up with Toronto. But the point being is the defensive market is going to be really expensive.
Yeah, I think that, the goalie market is starting to heat up too. Like you're hearing Jake Allen, Seattle's looking at him. There was a thought Seattle was going to, take Jake Allen in the expansion draft, before that happened. So there's been always connection there. And people, again, if they're wondering why would Montreal do this, they have Jacob Fowler. They got him as a steal in the second round last year of the draft. And if you go to sportsology.com, I wrote a little bit about the upcoming World Juniors, and I mentioned Fowler. And so I think they feel like in 2 or 3 years, Fowler can be there. He's definitely going to be better than Caden Primo, and that's their goalie of the future. So that's why they could do this.
But see, this is the thing about Montreal that I find laughable. It's the funny thing is they signed Jake Allen as a stopgap 2 years ago. So it was a 2-year deal, I believe, and this is the last year of that deal. Now they just signed Samuel Montembeault to a 3-year deal to be a stopgap goalie. I mean, at some point, you have to stopping the gap.
That's where Fowler comes in.
Right. Now, if they're sold on Fowler and, then they have to wait for him. But you're doing an awful lot of waiting in Montreal. Now, maybe, your plan is to build the team around him.
I think that is the plan. Like, hey, let's continue to build this up. I mean, even Slavkovsky isn't where he should be yet. So there's a lot of runway here yet for Montreal. And luckily, they have the kind of fans that are willing to wait at this point, because a lot of other fan bases would be freaking out.
I'm not sure how long they're willing to wait. Now, the thing is, it's like, I mean, okay, you've locked up Caulfield and Suzuki. You've got boat anchor contracts at Gallagher and Josh Anderson, who are, I mean, at least Gallagher's past his due date. Anderson.
How much longer can Allen be?
Allen's up this year, or no, he's got one more year.
One more year. All right, so that's not bad.
At 3.85, and here's the thing. Talking about the goalie market, Elliot and Jeff brought this up today. In lieu of what happened last night in Edmonton, where Carolina got thumped by the Oilers, that Carolina right now, again, how long have we said this? This is like as many times as I've said Justin Hall sucks. I've said the Islanders need offense. I've said that Carolina needs a goaltender. And Freddie Anderson.
Said it for 2 years. I mean,
right. And Freddie Anderson, his future is in doubt with this blood clotting issue, and we wish the best for Freddie. But right now, their goaltending is Antti Ranta, who has had trouble staying healthy in his career, but it seems to be sort of past that right now. And Kochetkov, who, I mean, we all thought was going to be their next goalie, but he's really not taken the bit and run with it. So I'm sorry, with the defense that they've got and with the forwards that they've got, I think they're a good goalie away. But the question is Jake Allen the good goalie?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much longer they're going to give Kochetkov. I mean, he's had 11 starts. It's not a ton, but I don't know how much longer they're going to give him this year. So, yeah, they might go that route. There was a funny soundbite and interview out there with Rod Brindamore yesterday with Darren Pang during the game. And Brindamore is like, the way we're playing, we're going to lose this game 50-0.
Right.
So Brindamore is losing some patience.
Yeah, and Kochetkov right now, his goals against is over 3.
Yeah.
The save percentage is .871, which is not.
But nobody's doing good there. Like,
no.
What's Ronta's?
Ronta is 333 goals against, 863 save percentage.
So Kochetkov is better than Ronta. So there's something else at play there, Mike, because I still think Kochetkov has talent. And I guess Freddie was the one guy who could play with that defense, but there's something up with that defense.
Well,
maybe it's going to sign Tony DeAngelo. What do I know?
Well, right now, see, the thing is, and again, last year he was phenomenal, but Brent Burns is just not a good defensive defenseman.
No, and I guess that may be starting to hurt them a bit. So who knows? They might be in the defenseman market too.
Yeah, I mean, right now, they have their best defenseman, Slavin.
Yeah.
Caretakering Brent Burns, because Brent Burns is not good defensively. He's phenomenal offensively, and
skater, can be physical, but yes, he's lacking.
Yeah, and he's 38 years old, so at a certain point he's going to drop off. Now, again, they're not playing well, and their second pairing, which should be one of the best second pairings in the league, which is Brady Shea and Pesce. Pesce is having a horrible year. He's got 2 points in 17 games. Now, he's not an offensive guy, but he's always been good enough to get, like, say, 25 to 30 points.
Right.
He's got 2. So, something's going on with him. Remember, they were trying to maybe trade him last summer. That didn't happen. And he's going into his walk year of free agency. It's like a Matt Dumba situation all over again, where he's having a terrible year going into the year where he's going to get paid. So,
yeah, I don't think it's all on the goaltending with Carolina. I think there's more at work here, at play.
Yeah. So, I mean, Carolina is not having a good year, and they're underachieving, and I don't think anybody really saw that. But, so, I mean, goaltending. So, besides them, the Buffalo Sabres, I think right now they're a disaster, and I don't think that's an overstatement. They've lost the last 4 games in a row. Tonight they're playing the Bruins. Rasmus Dahlin is a game time decision because he's got some sort of injury that has kept him out of practice the last 3 days. Eric Comrie played against Detroit and gave up 4 goals on, I think it was 27 shots. And I can't blame him solely for the loss, because their defense is terrible. I mean, their team defense is terrible. But they're going back to Devin Levi, Russ. Yeah. And the thing is that Devin Levi's worst game of the season, and I think the game that started to convince the Sabres hierarchy that maybe he wasn't ready, or maybe they needed to give him consistent work in the American Hockey League, was when he gave up 5 goals on 18 shots against the Boston Bruins. So this could be a turning point for Levi, where if he stones the Bruins,
I'm a little nervous. They kind of brought him up too quick.
Yeah, he played 2 games.
Yeah, I don't see the wisdom in that.
Oh, okay. Luukkonen was sick, and he's on emergency recall. So when Luukkonen is healthy, you would think that Levi is going back to Rochester. But there are some people who are saying, well, Eric Comrie is 1-5 with a save percentage that would make Kochetkov's look like.
Yeah, he didn't look great in the last game I watched him. I will say that about Comrie.
So the thing is, are you going to waive Comrie? You'll probably get him down to Rochester because he's making $1.8 million. But they want Levi to play regular. And if Luukkonen is the number 1 and playing the majority of the games, and he's been statistically the best goaltender, then you're still not. I think then you're still with the problem that Levi needs to play and play regularly. And he's 21 years old, and the only place he's going to play regularly is in Rochester.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm nervous about this game. I do like the pickup, though, of Eric Robinson. I thought that was a no-brainer because they need help. They need help, like you said, penalty killing. He's a terrific penalty killer. He's fast. He's a bottom 6 guy that'll give you a little offense. You're not going to get a ton of offense out of him, but he plays good defensive hockey too. And so, yeah, I've watched him since his Princeton days, and he continued to get better. Really was great for a while, like great for a bottom six guy under Torts. He excelled for a while under Torts. So,
Yeah,
I think it's a pickup, but it's not going to solve everything for him.
No, it's a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. But the thing is that, yeah, he's an effective bottom six forward. And under Brad Larson in Columbus, I was looking at his stats. He had 10 goals and 12 goals. He was one of their top penalty killers. And then all of a sudden, under Pascal Vincent, he's not playing. He's been sent to the minors. And, Yarmo basically said, okay, I can clear $1.6 million in cap space and get nothing for it. So he basically gave him away to the Sabres. Now,
I'll just say this. Yeah. I remember saying I thought Vincent would get a job, but I wasn't overly familiar with him. So I wasn't giving him like a nod of approval. I was just saying his name was out there and he seemed likely to get a job. I'm getting Ted Sater vibes from Vincent, the way he's sending guys down to the minors that maybe don't deserve it. And if people don't know, go look it up. What Sater did with the Rangers. It was worse than this.
Before the Rangers was with the Sabres. He was like Napoleon. He was like, just a dictator behind the bench.
Yeah. So that's I am getting those vibes, and it's not good.
Now, okay.
I do have
go ahead.
A bit of breaking news. So tonight, Lauren Gardner is saying that DeBrincat and Veleno are going to be the line mates for Kane on the second line. Like, this is the problem I think Detroit's going to have for the next week. The over magnification now of having Patrick Kane on the team. Now, if this is Patrick Kane and he looks like the guy from Chicago, it'll work out because he's going to score a lot of points. But if Patrick Kane starts off slow, which he might, we don't know. If he starts off slow, all of that media attention may not be great. Well, people are going to start blaming Veleno, who's already got his own problems for not really developing.
They said they're going to spoon feed the minutes on him early on, obviously, because he hasn't played in 8 months. But the thing is, I mean, it says a lot that he's playing with DeBrincat, who he's familiar with, but he's not playing with Larkin. He's not playing with Kopp or
Compher, and that's what Robert says. So.
Well, you're right, but I'm saying, I mean, maybe it'll be but Compher isn't exactly an offensive dynamo either. It's like
no, he's more defensive and good on faceoffs.
Right, the guy
he scores more than you expect. He does.
If you're expecting to max out offensively with Kane, the guy you want to play him with is Larkin, but you're not going to do that. So, I mean, it might be a situation where they're hoping that DeBrincat and Kane can carry Veleno along.
Yeah.
Maybe they think the chemistry between DeBrincat and Kane, because they played together so much in Chicago, will help.
Veleno has talent. It's just not come all together for him. So Randy says Kane will score 3 goals tonight. No, he won't.
Okay, whatever. It's not Mario Lemieux, and it's not against the Leafs.
Who are they playing?
Good question. Hold on. They are playing San Jose. So there he could. Randy. No. Okay. No, I was just going to say, talk about a statistical and scheduling anomaly. Right now the Sabres are 22 points, and they're third last in the conference. Only Columbus and Ottawa are worse. Buffalo's played 26 games. Columbus has played 27. Ottawa's played 20. They've got 6. They've got 6 games in hand. Now, I'm not going to say, they're going to win all 6, because I'm not acting. It's not the New York Islanders. But, but I am going to say that, 6 games in hand. Now, right now, Ottawa again has lost Shabbat. He's hurt again. And, it was funny. For the week and a half that he was healthy, there was rumors about them trading Shabbat. I mean, good luck. If the guy can't stay healthy, you can't move, especially when he's making, I think, over $7 million. So, it's okay. Looking at the West, and we'll take a couple questions before we end the show here. I mean, it seems, it's going to be a battle between Colorado and Dallas, back and forth in the Central. Colorado's at 34, Dallas is at 31. I watched a little bit of that Florida-Dallas game. That game was nuts. It was wide open. It was entertaining, but I don't know how much Paul Maurice and DeBoer liked what those two teams.
I don't think they were comfortable with that, but Florida's they're getting the job done, and so is Bob. Bob is getting the job done too.
And they got Ekblad and they got Montour back, so they weathered the storm.
They did,
and now they're, I mean, I've said it. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Right now, barring anything unforeseen happen, Boston's probably going to run away with the Atlantic. But you're going to have a battle between Florida, Detroit, Tampa, and Toronto for second and third place in the Atlantic. And I think the other two are going to end up as the wild cards. I don't think the wild cards are coming out of the Metro, because unless the Devils turn it around pretty quickly, or unless the Penguins.
I think the Devils will turn it around. And if nobody, I know there's a question in the chat room about the Islanders, so I'd be happy to answer that.
Where is it? Who had it?
We should mention too that the Ottawa Senators did hire Jacques Martin to be like not an associate, but like a
special advisor.
Special advisor, and he's going to find the next coach. Like, he's going to go find candidates for Staios, and they're going to chat about it.
Yeah,
that's where DJ Stewart's in trouble now. Now that Martin has come in,
DJ Smith.
Where did I get Stewart from? DJ Smith is in trouble.
From the Mets. Catcher from the Mets.
That's right. He's the DH for the Mets. DJ Smith is in trouble. Like, he may only have.
I think he's going to last the year. I mean,
I don't know. I don't think he's going to make it.
Well, I mean, I'll say this: Jacques Martin basically has the same role that Jacques Lemaire had in Toronto when Lou hired him to be like an overseer to Babcock. And it was basically Jacques Lemaire was in Toronto like once every blue moon. So I don't know how much say.
Martin's going to be more hands-on than that.
No, I mean, he's not going to be behind the bench all the time. He's 70.
No. But you got to remember, they don't even have a technical GM really yet either. Staios is just holding down the job.
Yeah, and I think that'll be probably for the rest of the year, and then that's what they'll end up doing. They'll finish out the rest of the year with the things as is. They'll hire a GM, and they'll let the GM hire the coach.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they might hire the GM and the coach soon, based on the fact that they do have all these games in hand. That may help them.
Well, Matthew Darsh was the name that has been mentioned a few times. I haven't heard any.
He's been mentioned a lot, but I don't know if he's going to get the job, because honestly, he hasn't done a lot other than be on a very successful team.
Yeah.
So I think there's a reason why he hasn't gotten hired yet.
I saw a comment in the chat and I found it fairly hilarious. I can't find it now, but somebody said, how do you like them Oilers, Mike? And I'm like, okay, they've won 5 in a row, guys. They've won 5 in a row, and they're still 6 points out of the last wild card.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're not going to keep this pace up much longer. And if they lose 2 or 3 in a row, then they're back to being double digits out of the play. I don't know if they're making the playoffs. I'll see. Randy says,
I still don't think they are. I just think they're going through a high period right now, which they were due for, and it doesn't mean it's going to continue.
How long does Lane Lambert have with the Islanders?
The Islanders have crept up in the standings. I mean, Kyle Palmieri got hot. If you look at Barzal, he's a point a game again. So I think Lambert's safe. I don't think there's any problem with Lane Lambert right now.
Now, the report is out there that the minority owner of the Islanders is selling 10% his 10% stake.
Is that Ledecky selling his, or
no, not Ledecky? Who was
the other guy? Okay,
yeah, the other guy.
Right.
So Thomas is Steve Cohen.
Why? No, this is legit. Thomas is right.
Okay.
Steve Cohen has gone as a fan to games. He and his wife have worn Islander jerseys. They've sat with Ledecky. They know him. Remember, Cohen's opening up it's got down the road, a casino outside of the City Field area there.
Like he needs more money.
And he probably wants to, further develop maybe UBS and what's there. And I think the 10%. Remember, there's a lot of Islander fans that are Met fans. That's the reason that Cohen is probably an Islander fan.
So brain death is no, never mind.
But I just think, yes, I think this is a very big possibility that it could happen. So I think
I'm a little surprised, but the NHL would love. Yeah, I'm sure they would love to get him in the fold.
Sure, absolutely.
And the thing is, he can't do what he does in Major League Baseball because there is a salary cap. So
right.
But he could do other things. He could, he can spend, ancillary money. So,
No, I mean, listen, he could help develop and get them other things going in that near that arena to make money. That's what he could do.
okay, Robert, where does Arizona play in the playoffs for revenue? They play at Mullet.
Yeah, they're going to just raise the tickets to a price that they feel is what they can, get. I know they have a standing room only area. I don't know how big that is.
It's
and that's all they can do.
It's the most 5,000. It's not like all of a sudden, Gila River or jobbing.com or whatever the hell the name is in Glendale is going to say, sure, playoffs. So
no, but you know what they're going to do? They're going to do like what Tampa does and what Pittsburgh does, and they'll have a group of, and Toronto does this too. They'll have a bunch of people outside too.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be in April when it's like 105, so you have people dropping like flies.
Yeah, I mean, but it'll be definitely be hotter than Maple Leaf Square is.
Well, at least the celebration could be longer than a week.
I always enjoy. They always show like when people get disgusted at Maple Leaf Square, like at the game where they get. It's unbelievable how fast that crowd leaves.
There is, it's on YouTube, and I to this day I love it. The dramatic collapse, the 4-1 collapse in 2013. Yeah. The fans didn't leave in droves when Bergeron scored the overtime goal. They left when the game tied. They knew they were going to lose, and everybody scrambled.
They did. They just got out of there like it was on fire. It's an amazing thing.
Now, okay, Randy's asking, how sure am I that the Leafs are going to get Tanev? All right. I'm not sure that they're going to get him in season because it'll depend on what Calgary gets offered for him. And he's a right-hand shot, a shot blocker. Now he's 33 years old. I'll say this. I think Tanev will be a Leaf in the summer. I don't know if they're going to trade for him and Treliving has been smart on this. He's keeping expectations down here because I think everybody realizes this is not a Stanley Cup winning team.
Right.
They have a lot of
say that out loud.
No, of course he can. Of course, and he's not going to say that. I can say that because I have eyes. But I look at the Leafs right now, and they have a good young goaltender in Wall, but they don't know if he's a number one yet. So they're going to spend this year giving him games and seeing how he reacts. They've got a defenseman in Liljegren who they think is a top 4, but he got hurt. And now once he comes back, they're going to give him a lot of minutes. He's a right shot defenseman. They're going to see what they have there. They have Connor Timmins. If Connor Timmins can stay healthy, which has always been a question mark with him.
They're going to end up getting somebody like on the level of Timmins that won't cost them more than like a 5th round pick.
Yeah, like Lyubushkin. They'll probably get Lyubushkin back.
Somebody like that.
But they're not going to trade a 1st round pick or Nyes or Fraser Minton or Easton Cowan or any of their top prospects because I don't think that they think internally this team is completely, especially, like somebody said, hey, the Oilers have more regulation wins than the Leafs. Well, the Leafs have 11 wins. So it's like right now they're winning in overtime and winning in shootouts, but 12 wins. But the point is that they're not very good. They've got talent, but they don't have everything.
Right. The points are going to get them in the playoffs, but unless things drastically change, it's hard to give them a rosy outlook. I get it.
Yeah. What's this? Terry 3Gs. Has the delayed info on Klingsberg's hip hurt the Leafs in acquiring? Well, it hurt them in Zadorov because Zadorov. I think they needed Calgary to retain salary. And Calgary wouldn't, and they had an out with Vancouver where Vancouver had traded Beauvillier and they had the money to take on Zadorov's full salary. Now that Klingberg is having surgery and he's out for the rest of the year, now they have cap space and they have a little bit of flexibility.
How many games did Klingberg play for the Leafs?
Like 14, but he got hurt. He got hurt in like the 4th game, Russ.
Unbelievable.
He wasn't hurt it wasn't the hip in the preseason. It was, I think it was like an arm injury. It was nothing bad. And then he got hurt against Florida and he was never the same. And now he's going to have surgery. So it sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Because I still liked the signing. I mean, of course, people are going to say, "Oh, that was terrible." No, at the time, I liked the signing for what he was supposed to do, which was be a power play quarterback and allow Riley to be more of a 5-on-5 guy. And now Riley's got to do both. He's got to play 5-on-5 and be the top guy in the power play. And that's just loading a lot of minutes on a guy. And that's why they've got one top 4 defenseman right now. more.
Like, imagine if I'm just going to play like a what if. Just imagine if they didn't have Giordano, what they would look like defensively.
I mean, okay, you can say he's 40,
but he's the glue.
He's played really well. I mean, but the problem is like last year they played him 25 minutes a night early in the season because everybody was hurt, and then by the playoffs he was out of gas.
Yeah, but he's the glue for them.
Yeah, and people don't want to say TJ Brody is a very good defenseman.
I think he's having a good year.
And the thing is, I think they would like to re-sign him, but not at $5 million. So, but yeah, okay. A couple more questions and we'll end it here. Let's see here. It's insane that all the Bowling leads, the Islanders are 2 points out of second in the Metro. Yeah, the Metro is not a good division.
The Metro has fallen this year.
I mean, the Rangers could be the class of the East, at least them and Boston.
Right.
But after that, New Jersey is faltered. Carolina is 8 points behind the Rangers. Philadelphia is in a playoff spot. That's how bad things are right now.
It's true.
Okay, let's see here. Let's see here. It's a throwaway season for the Leafs, so Treliving can realistically make moves he wants next summer. Well, okay, here's the thing. I don't think it's a throwaway season, but I do think if it was a throwaway season, you'd be hearing significant William Nylander trade rumors.
Right.
And it might get there. Okay, it might get there. If they can't get him signed, I have heard nothing. This is just my supposition. Treliving has said the right things. We want to sign him. We like him. We think he's a star player. They're stroking Nylander's ego. They're whispering sweet nothings in the ear of Louis Gross and Michael Nylander. Okay, if they keep demanding $11 million, which the Leafs cannot pay next year, then they would have about $45 million for 4 players. Okay, for a year. Then Tavares might sign a lower deal. But for next year, it would be an absolute killer. If they can't get Nylander at a more reasonable rate, and he's not signed by the All-Star break, which is in Toronto, you're going to start hearing Nylander rumors because they cannot let him walk away for nothing. And if they don't think, and they're going to say this internally,
they're never going to fall out of it enough that you're going to hear those rumors.
No, but okay, and they're a playoff team. But what I'm saying is, if they don't think that they're a realistic Stanley Cup contender, and you can't get them signed, I mean, Calgary, when in Flamester, you give me a thumbs up or down on this. When Calgary was keeping Gaudreau and they had Matthew Tkachuk, they were one of the best teams in the league under Darryl Sutter. People thought that they had a chance of winning the Stanley Cup, and then they ran into Edmonton in the second round, and it was over with. But at the time, it made sense to keep Gaudreau because they were still talking back and forth. If Toronto doesn't think they're going, if they have a chance to win the Stanley Cup or get by Boston or get by the Rangers, and you're keeping Nylander on the promise that he might sign, you're stupid if you do that.
Well, listen, I think Toronto isn't really being honest with themselves on what the team really is, and I think their expectations are higher than yours. I do.
So you think they're pie in the sky and not realistic like me?
Correct.
Well, I mean,
I think that's part of the problem with the whole thing with Nylander. I do.
I think that publicly you're right. We don't know what they're saying privately. And the thing is, if they can't get Nylander signed for a deal that they think is fair, because everybody's saying, I've got people telling me, well, they're going to trade Marner in the offseason. He has a no-move clause. And if you're Mitch Marner, why would you waive a no-move clause in your hometown 1 year away from unrestricted free agency?
He's not going to do that.
He's not doing it. He's either playing with Tavares or he's playing with Matthews, and he's got the possibility of scoring 90 to 100 points, and he's going to waive to go someplace else? Not a chance. So anyway, all right, we will end it there, and we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Russ Cohen, and I'm Michael Lagello. Thank you for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.